St. Louis, the All-Star game on July 14th. But as we have talked about, Al, and we have seen the releases and visited with people that have hosted an All-Star game, it's much more than just the game that week. Leading into it, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a base hit for Jose Reyes.
I wasn't part of the fun, but you're absolutely right. About 5 straight days, and Cardinals won them against this same lineup yesterday with different pitcher.
So Reyes with a base hit, Daniel Murphy, and then David Wright, Delgado, Beltran, and Church, Castro, Castillo yesterday, 2 for 4, career hit number 1700, and then John Maine, the pitcher. 17 straight now for the Mets to start this season against a right-hander. And you look at their lineup, Reyes at 339. This young man Murphy at 320, David Wright 306, Delgado 300, Beltran 354, and Church 350. The first 6 in the lineup 300 or better.
And they have 3 left-handed hitters, 3 switch hitters in their lineup.
And one of those is at first. Down the left field line, and Duncan, a nice play. That's a heck of a play by Chris Duncan near that left field line and right by the stands as well, and right by the sidewall. This is not an easy play.
Now you can see him reaching out there and knows that wall is coming into, at some point he's going to run into it, but under control, gets over there, makes the catch, and was able to brace himself before he hit that wall hard.
We have a gorgeous night here in St. Louis. It's 71 degrees. How about this afternoon? It was perfect.
Beautiful day, and going to be a picture perfect day tomorrow afternoon for good baseball weather.
Marshall Wireless starter is Joel Pinheiro, and he has a record of 2-0, 11 2/3, 4 walks. He has struck out 5, and opponents hitting 354. It just seems like when he's on the mound, more times than not, the offense for the Cardinals comes alive.
Well, and it just seems like he's very comfortable this year. He's healthy. He's getting good sync on his action on his pitches, working both sides of the plate. He's going to give up some hits, but he also has that ability to get a ground ball double play.
Now, David Wright had 124 RBIs last year. He has 1 so far this year. That's fouled back off of Molina. But think about this. David Wright had 267 at-bats with runners in scoring position a season ago.
Well, that gives you an idea of their offense and how they can get those guys on, particularly Reyes in front of them.
2 strikes on Wright.
And, a year ago, Delgado was really so slow, getting out of the gate, finished strong. So this year, they have to pitch to David Wright, but he hasn't produced just yet, but he will.
There's a move by Pinheiro to check on Reyes. Reyes, of course, a steal threat to steal. He had 56 steals a year ago already this season with 3.
On 4 consecutive years of 50 or more.
That's right. 50+ steals last year, 70+ extra base hits. That hurts.
Quite. Remember David Wright opening up and swinging so hard.
And Reyes and Pujols having a visit. The All-Star summer here in St. Louis. We'll visit with Jay Nixon coming up in the 3rd inning. And we hope to visit at some point, maybe, fingers crossed, with Ozzie Smith, the Hall of Famer. That's in the dirt. David Wright, outstanding player for the Mets. And Pinheiro, as you mentioned, would love a ground ball here and get the double play and send us to the bottom of the 1st.
It's one thing we've seen is his sinker is much more consistent this year.
And the Cardinals have talked about with Joel Pinheiro the fact that he came into spring training in great shape. Very pleased with that.
Remember, he started the season on the disabled list, and he had another bout on the DL. And never really got on track last year.
And another check on Reyes.
A lot of times that's ordered from the bench as Tony tries to control the running game. Got a ground ball pitcher, so good speed by Reyes, so look for them to start the runner.
If you're the Mets and you see what he's done against St. Louis, what's your opinion of Yadier Molina. He beat you back in 2006. He picked off Daniel Murphy in the first last night. He had 2 plays at the plate in which he blocked the plate. The play of the game was Beltran. You're thinking this guy is a tremendous player, and he is. Exactly right. We see it and appreciate his skills on a daily basis, but Tony just calls him the best catcher in baseball. 3-2 pitch. Runner goes, lined, and a double play. They'll just tag him out. That was Schumacher, and he just tags out Jose Reyes. Cardinals coming up in their half of the first. To Forest Park again for game 2. And we move now to the bottom of the first here in St. Louis. A look at Tony La Russa's lineup. Schumacher, Rasmus, and Pujols. Chris Duncan, a 13-game hitting streak on the line tonight. Ankiel, Molina, Green, Thurston, and Pinheiro. And that's a look at the Cardinals lineup against a very good right-hander when he's healthy. And that's John Mayne. Skip Schumacher was not in the lineup last night, in there today. 2 starts for Mayne, and he's 0-1 with an ERA over 7. Doesn't waste much time. 2 balls and no strikes.
Talked to the Mets pitching coach Dan Warthen, and he said that the results have not been good, but he has pitched very well.
And there's a strike at the knees to Skip.
There's Danny. And I reminded him that when we both got in pro ball, you never would hire a left-hander to be a pitching coach.
And what was his response to that?
He goes,
That's why you're in the booth.
He goes, and now, and you know, the only thing that can relate to some pitchers is a left-handed relief pitcher.
Things have changed a little
Randy
bit.
Neiman is their bullpen coach, and he's also a left-hander.
Right. 2-2 to Skip. Outside, 3-2.
Well, I used to think left-handers are a little flaky. I don't know why they think that, but
not with you, Al.
No, exactly. I'm very serious.
You're right down,
straight and narrow.
That's right. That's a pop foul out of play. What do you think of Cal Eldred's interview with Tony La Russa concerning his lineup? He says a series or 2 before, he goes through a detailed report of what he wants.
I want to know what, when the camera was off, Tony had a question about, well, you know, you don't platoon the All-Stars, do you?
We went right to break. So a leadoff walk, and here is Colby Rasmus, who is the right fielder tonight. Let's meet the defense of the Mets, and this is brought to you by Auto Tire. Murphy, Beltran, Church, Wright, Reyes, Castillo, and Delgado. Battery tonight, John Mayne and Ramon Castro. So here is Colby Erasmus, who is hitting .235, no home runs and 2 RBIs.
And we learned in that interview that Rasmus is in the lineup because he hadn't played for the last 3 days and wanted to keep him swinging the bat well.
And he said that Ludwig will probably play 5 of the next 6. But again, Cal, the outstanding journalist that he is,
yes,
followed up by saying, hey, wait a minute. It's tough to platoon an all-star. And he's right. That's not an easy decision. Who do you sit? You've got a guy with a hitting streak. You've got Ankiel, who last night had 3 hits. He's starting to bust out. And then you have Ludwig, his first game that he didn't have a hit.
Right. He went 21 straight hits going back to last year and leading the league, and are tied for home runs and RBIs. But
that's a base hit down the first base line past Delgado. Schumacher to third. He'll stop there, and here comes Albert. Good start here for the Redbirds.
Good start. And Rasmus, because of that speed, Cal McRae says he really likes him, and it's only a matter of time before he thinks he's going to be an everyday player.
And Al, you and I, after watching this first at bat by Colby Rasmus, we couldn't be in more agreement with Tony La Russa. This is the guy to play.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
After the at-bat, it made that decision a lot easier for the both of us.
What a great decision that was.
How can you let Pujols play, though?
I mean, give me a break, huh? So nobody out, and here is Pujols. Albert Pujols, he was in a little bit of a slump for Albert Pujols. By the way, 4 for 9 against John Maine. He had been 1 for his last 12, and then he had that broken bat double, and he hit it almost to the track with a broken bat. And that was last night, and a couple of runs would score, and that got the Cardinals going. Eventually, a couple of walks, they tied it up, and then they won that ball game.
About 4 home runs already, 16 RBIs, ties for the league lead.
Ooh.
With Ethier and Ludwig.
Vicious cut that time by Pujols. I thought it was great, though. Cal went into Tony La Russa's office, and of course Cal played a vital role over the years for Tony La Russa, and to have a former player go in there and ask him those questions about his lineup, about the different sheets, I thought it was great.
Well, and the thing is when you're playing, you got tunnel vision.
Pujols out to deep left field, backing up Murphy to make the catch. Schumacher will tag, and it's 1-0 St. Louis.
You think you pay attention to everything, and obviously the pitching staff, and later in his years here with St. Louis, Cal was knew the bullpen and worried about that. But when you're through, you worry about all 25 players. See the ball up, little movement, and Albert knows that's going to produce a fly ball if you just center it, and didn't hit it out, but got the sacrifice fly and leads the league with his 17.
Al, now Pujols there is down 0-2, and this is Duncan. Foul tip. When you're down 0-2 as a hitter, you've talked to so many hitters. You're not sure what's coming next, and there's a pitch up above the letters, and yet he's still able to not just pop it up, but drive it into left and almost knocked it out of the park.
And see that pitch, John Main's thinking is like, okay, I'm going to get the pop up in the infield or a swing and miss. But that's to a normal hitter. Albert was at the plate.
Albert is just not human, is he? I mean, this guy is something else. It doesn't matter the count, the situation. He produces all the time.
How about Duncan this year?
Yeah, Duncan's been very good. He's finally healthy, and Duncan with that 13-game hitting streak. He's in left field tonight, hitting .362, couple of home runs, and 11 RBIs.
He's hit in all games he's started.
Cardinals would win last night down by 4 runs, and now they jump out to a 1-0 lead.
Something they did rarely last season, right? Battle
Always
back
playing.
from a game when trailing by 4 or more.
Always playing catch up. The Cardinals won only 2 games all of last season after trailing by 4 or more runs. Lowest total since 1997. Here's a 2-2 pitch to the Cardinal left fielder tonight, and that's low. Already 18 pitches here in the first inning. A problem for the Mets has been their starting rotation. It has not been their offense, as we noted. The first 6 are hitting 300 or better in their lineup tonight. Their bullpen, for the most part, outside of last night, has been very, very good. Duncan pulls it to the right side, and Delgado will take it and steps on the bag. Rasmus over to third. Then it brings in Ricky Ankiel. You would hope last night really gets Rick going.
Well, particularly in the fact that I believe it was the last 3 at bats where he got the base hits.
By the way, Tony La Russa has managed exactly 100 regular season games against the Mets, and his team is 48-52 in those games.
How do you like Ankiel's mustache?
Well, if it makes him hit, I love it.
Trimmed it down from the full beard. Got 3 hits with it last.
Why are you asking me? I'm a guy that can barely grow facial hair. You, of course, were noted for the Fu Manchu. So maybe I should ask you. As this is popped up, and that'll find the seats. I mean, you're the guy that can evaluate facial hair, not me.
It's a work in progress.
So if he lets it go down a little bit further,
you got to let it creep down on the sides.
What do you think of Raleigh fingers? I mean, were you a fan of that?
Yeah, I was. Okay. You know how that all started?
Well, I'm going to find out.
Yeah. I believe it was 73, 72, 73, around there. He's playing for the Oakland A's, and Charlie Finley. There was no mustaches in baseball, and Charlie Finley said at the end of the season we're going to have a mustache day. Paid all the players $300.
That's big money back then.
Tell you how it's changed. Dal Maxwell was on that team. He goes, I've never had a mustache. I didn't want it. He said, we're going to pay you $300. He said, I'll start growing a mustache. But that was the origin of his handlebar mustache,
of which he's kept now.
Yes.
Strikeout of Rick Ankiel. Cardinals, though, strike first. The RBI by Pujols. Side, New York and the St. Louis Cardinals. You go back to 2007, that was the great start that Joel Pinheiro had that really earned him the contract the next couple of years. It was a makeup date, and he had 8 innings in those games. Since then, 5 and then 4, but the run support has been terrific.
Yeah, and I think you got to remember, last year we talked about he was 7-7, a couple times on the disabled list, and really never caught up with his conditioning. So we expect him to be a little bit better this time. Maybe not quite as good as 07, but you're right, that makeup game was probably his best as a Cardinal.
I think so. And here's Carlos Delgado, batted 196 over the previous 2 Aprils. Got out to very slow starts. 4th lowest such average in the National League. But he already has more extra base hits, 7, and RBIs 14 this year than he had in either of the previous 2 Aprils.
Remember, people felt he was done last year. The first half, he just got off to such a slow. Really picked up the pace and became the terrific player he is.
See the highest percentage of any team and runs batted in. Delgado, boy, he has just been outstanding. Votto at the top of that list. Pena, Benji Molina, Nick Markakis of Baltimore. But over the course of his career, Al, this guy has just been a tremendous player, an RBI producer, a home run machine, especially in his time in Toronto.
Yeah, he's over 1,500 RBIs, 472, closing in on Hall of Famers Stan Musial and Willie Stargell. They had 475.
At one point, he had 4 home runs in a game. When I think of Delgado, I think of another Blue Jay that did it, Sean Green. And he is out of baseball now. Mets picked him up at the tail end of his career. Here's a 2-2 pitch to Carlos Delgado. Out to center field. Backing up very calmly, Ricky and Keel. Everybody else was thinking, uh-oh. That includes me. I'm not sure about you, but definitely me. Our auto tire defense. Duncan and Keel and Rasmus in the outfield. Thurston, Khalil Green, Schumacher, and Pujols along the infield. Joel Pinheiro and Yadier Molina. 26 pickoffs for Molina. Saw that stat there in the bottom of his graphic. And here's Carlos Beltran. You know, the amazing thing about Beltran, I guess because all the focus is on postseason play and what your team does and what particular individuals do to elevate their team. Beltran has just been okay against the Cardinals in the regular season as he singles now to right. But obviously in the postseason he was great with Houston. He's been pretty good with the Mets, but regular season, okay.
Well, before this at bat, it's 225, and that went up as he had a couple base hits, and here a base running blunder as he does not slide. And Yachty gets him, seals it off with his left foot right in front of the plate and stepped on it and never touched home plate.
And you have to wonder why he didn't slide. Jerry Manuel was asked about that. He said, I'm not sure why he didn't. And if he scores, it's a completely different game because at that point it makes it 5-4 Mets. And I think the other thing you have to look at, Al, is that after that inning, you have a guy that has struggled in left field. And that's Daniel Murphy. And if you're leading by a run, you probably take him out of the game.
For defense.
Right. And Brendan Ryan would triple over his head on a miscue, a play that should have been made. So there's a lot of things that went into the ball game last night. Mets had a 4-0 lead. That was lost. What's also lost in the game, catcher's interference to load the bases in the 6th. You might remember that. They had 2 bases loaded walks in the game. The misplay in left that we've talked about, and then Beltran, of course, the obvious one, not sliding, which didn't make any sense to anybody here at the ballpark.
Well, you just have to anticipate you need to slide. When you slide feet first, you know, you can kick that leg out of the way. You can dislodge the ball. You know, you collide with the catcher, you know, sliding feet first when he's trying to receive that throw where, you know, Thurston kind of threw it wildly and blindly. You didn't know how accurate it'd be.
Schumacher, Green, and Pujols. Double play. The second in 2 innings for the Cardinals. Molina, Green, and Thurston all coming up. Skip Schumacher. I talked to him at length in Chicago about these plays right here. Here's the Hot Shots Exmo Cam. Hot Shots, 1 block from the ballpark here in downtown St. Louis on Broadway. And he said these are probably the toughest plays. When you think about where you need to be positioned, how you deliver the ball, is it going to be a shovel pass? Is it underhand? Do you go overhand? How do you throw it? Well, all different things.
But with all the work he puts in with Jose Oquendo and Joe Patini, it's becoming second nature. And you saw how he collapsed the bare hand over the glove, get it in position where he can grab that ball and make a strong, accurate little shovel pass. You know, it's all become repetitious, and he's looking more and more comfortable.
Well, I get to the ballpark early at 3 o'clock.
I get here at 9:30.
And he was not on the field at 9:30. I can tell you, though, around 3 o'clock he was here.
Well, when I get here at 9:30, I didn't say he was here on the field.
Well, I didn't see it. That's interesting. So apparently you get here about 6, I think, huh? All right. Visit the official online shop of the Cardinals at STLCardinals.com. You can browse the largest selection of authentic gear, including caps, T-shirts, jerseys, and more. Get your Cardinals gear straight from the source. STLCardinals.com.
No, 6 a.m. is spring training time I get here.
And then you just basically every night when we're at home, we set up a couch behind us, and you don't go home because you want to be around the game so much.
Yeah,
no matter what, you're here at the ballpark.
I was at Garfield Elementary School today.
You and Fredbird, I assume.
Yeah.
Do you scare those children, or are you nice to the children?
I have a good time with them. I really do.
That's not answering my question. You may scare them. Then.
No, I think Fredbird scares half of them.
That's probably true.
It is true. I
can speak on my son's behalf. He was scared when he saw Fredbird the first time. But then I gave him the Fredbird bobblehead. He thought that was one of the neatest things he's ever gotten in his life. So, hey, take your choice. The real Fredbird or the bobblehead. There's a walk to Green. You know, Khalil Green had a big walk in the ballgame last night. Bases loaded walk.
Well, he had 3 walks last night, so his 4th walk in the series. The first walk here tonight by Maine, the Schumacher came around to score.
I said to Joe Thurston before the game tonight, I said, you know, that play at the plate, I guess that's the way you draw it up, huh?
Nope.
The snap tag, it gets away, and then you fire home, and guy doesn't slide, and you get out of the jam. Says not quite. Joe has been a nice addition to this club, and you know, we talked so much about Miles and how he would be missed on this team, but yet you look at Thurston, you look at Barden, those two have played very well.
They've really picked up the slack, and you get 2 for 1.
That's outside, and the pitch count is +30 right now for John Maine. You got the first man, Molina, hard hit ball to third, and the walk to Khalil Green. And it's 1-0 on Joe Thurston, who's hitting above 300. He's at .313 with no home runs and 7 RBIs. But Thurston and Barden, with Gloss out, those two have played very well. Joe, a very likable guy. Runner goes, swing and a miss on a hit and run, and out at second, Khalil Green. So caught stealing. A bang play there at second base.
Castro's thrown out about 25% of runners in his career, and get a good pitch to throw. Khalil Green, and very close, whether he got in there ahead of the tag, but
and now it's 1-2 on Joe Thurston with Pinheiro on deck. That's in the dirt. 2-2.
It's the first time Green has been thrown out in 2 attempts, and the second time Cardinals have lost a base stealer in 9 attempts.
Count even, and here's the 2-2 pitch to Thurston. Popped up, and that'll find the seats. Al, we have a big fan that watches every single game. 10-year-old Nicholas Strickland. He's in the hospital right now. My understanding is that he's doing much better, but he always watches our games with his mom and dad, and all he can say is, we wish you were here, and when you get better, get out of the hospital, come find us, and come on up to the booth and spend a day with us. That's Nicholas Strickland, big Cardinal fan. 1-0 St. Louis. In the top of the third, the Cardinals have the lead. There's Derek. We see him every day when we come to the ballpark, including the governor, and that's Jay Nixon.
Hall of Famers only, baby.
Hall of Famers only.
We're on the way.
Well, even Jay Nixon slipped by that. Nice to see you, Governor. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be here. What a beautiful evening, and the All-Star game being here this summer. Everybody is fired up.
Yeah, everybody is fired up. We're excited here in St. Louis. Where are you from originally?
Born and raised in DeSoto, Missouri, about 40 miles south of here.
That's also known, at least in my book, as Cardinal Country.
Definitely. Makes it a little difficult on me when I go to Kansas City, so you got to be careful here.
I didn't want to put you on the spot, but you know you've got to play both sides of the state here.
Yeah,
so
it's hard to wear that blue.
I understand. I understand. Okay. So tell us about what you've gone through today, because today was really the official kickoff of the All-Star game here in St. Louis.
Yeah, we kicked off the All-Star game. A lot of solid announcements today. Cardinal Care coming up with $2 million to the local community. This will have $60 million impact the whole game to this area.
There's a ground ball to short off the bat of Ramon Castro, and Khalil Green puts him away for the first out. And all right, Governor, I got to put you on the spot here. No hanging chads, okay? So what was your All-Star ballot like?
Well, I don't want to get into trouble by saying I voted for Freeze, because he's not currently on the roster. But I hate to. I hope that counts. I mean, I'm not
okay.
sure. I mean, I went ahead and did. You got to vote for the St. Louis guy. He's on the ballot. You know, I understand.
Maybe
he'll be back up.
Now, did you get a chance to meet Albert Pujols?
Yes, I did. Well, a couple times today. What an outstanding guy, and plus, not only a great player, but also a great citizen. Helps in the community in so many ways.
Jay Nixon is with us, the Missouri governor, and that's slapped out of play by the 8th place hitter, Luis Castillo. Give us an idea from your team of what the economic impact could be here in St. Louis for the All-Star game coming to town.
Well, all in $60 million. I mean, when you talk about the hotel rooms, the restaurants, all of the things around here, but it also gives us a chance to show off to the world. 200 different countries will be looking at this all across the world. It's a chance for us to use this as a jumpstart to the economy here in St. Louis.
And how do you try to jumpstart things here in town?
A couple of things. First of all, we took about $500,000 of our tourism budget to advertise, to get people to come early and stay late. And then we also are going to use our economic development team. As folks come in, we'll be matching them up to tour the things that are here in St. Louis. So we'll do the tourism piece, plus we'll do the economic development side. All of that will put St. Louis and Missouri in the best light and help us get moving again in the state.
3 balls, 1 strike, and Castillo looks at ball 4. Well, I know you've never done this thing about talking up in a booth, you know, and visiting with me, so I know you're really nervous, but I guarantee you are very nervous about this. We have the telestrator. You're not at the pitching rubber, Governor, and I mean, you got to go to the pitching rubber to throw out that first pitch.
Well, I didn't have the lamp black on either, and you know, I had a Hall of Famer catching it, so I figured I was pretty safe. I got on the mound. I was up on the mound.
That wasn't bad. I give you that.
The mound looked pretty clean. I didn't want to mess it up. And Nero needed all the help he could get tonight.
You know, and I was watching you, and you had a chance to visit briefly with Ozzie Smith. What was that like?
I said, I'm going to keep it high. It's not going to go low. You're going to be safe.
So he was giving you words of encouragement.
You could call it that, although he was jawing a little bit too. I mean, it was not, you know, nobody's really cheering for the old politician to throw a great strike there. You know?
Pinheiro makes the play on the sacrifice. At least you can have a little fun about it. That's good.
It's a tremendous amount of fun. It really, really was. And you know, I used to pitch a little bit, so I mean, it's not like I haven't ever thrown a ball before. So
no.
It was a lot of fun.
I thought you had nice extension back, and you know, you got your legs into it. You had a little Tom Seaver going here with the Mets here, you know, so you had the legs going. That was good.
I threw the deuce, not the straight one.
Here is Jose Reyes. You know, to have the All-Star game come to St. Louis is just huge, obviously, as we've talked about, for the city of St. Louis. But what does it mean outside of this community of St. Louis and really statewide? What's it mean for the folks that are just outside of St. Louis?
Well, you got to visualize 200 countries looking at St. Louis all across instantaneously, and the opportunities to highlight things like, you know, WashU, the Danforth Plant Center, Monsanto, the Life and Plant Science, all of the great assets we have here. It's a real opportunity for us to paint a picture of the world that helps us transform not only downtown but this economy as we move forward.
What do you tell people that aren't from here that are coming to St. Louis? What do you tell them to go do?
Well, I obviously the zoo, the art museum, we like the Science Center. Obviously, you got to come to Busch Stadium. That's the first place you stop. So the bottom line is that we have a whole corridor. You know, you've got the Botanical Garden, which, you know, the same person who designed that house designed the governor's mansion. So you have this history corridor here that's also important. But the people, really, I mean, Missourians are hardworking, straight-shooting people. That's the key thing to South here.
I think a lot of fans are curious about what people outside the state think of the state of Missouri. What do you hear about it?
Well, first of all, you know my theory is the farther you get from saltwater, the nicer the people get. Right here in the middle of the country is where the nicest people in the world are. I mean, people are friendly to you. They work hard. I think the one thing we're famous for is work. People that have great values, that work hard, that are prepared to help other people too. I mean, this is a state in which you don't see people by the side of the road very often because people stop and help them. You don't see people in need as much because we reach out and help, and that's why Cardinal Care stepping up today, Major League Baseball helping us. All of that is a good example of how Missouri's mainstream Midwestern values are going to be really on show this year for the world.
2-2 is the count on the leadoff man, Jose Reyes. Here in the third, pitch in the dirt. Now, how much trouble are you going to get? Don't play politician. Just play average Joe. Okay, your family and friends are watching this tonight, and they see that replay of your first pitch. How much trouble are you going to get for that?
Well, I got text by my son from school that said,
you get text messages already.
Why did, you know, Ozzie have to jump to catch the ball? You know, it was kind of a strike.
Yeah. And that's in the dirt to Reyes. And we are so lucky, of course, to live here in St. Louis and the state of Missouri, the Show Me State. What are you doing for the All-Star game? What are your duties?
We'll be down here most of the 3 or 4 days around that. We're bringing companies in. We're hosting some events for folks. I'll be involved in the All-Star game here, trying to bring companies in and people that want to add jobs to highlight St. Louis, doing a lot of tours and a lot of meetings with key players.
And that is past Schumacher, and this game is tied up at 1 apiece on a 2-out base hit. We saw a bunch of those last night from the Mets. And that was Daniel Murphy picking up his 6th RBI of the season to drive in Castillo, the 8th place hitter in the Mets lineup. Here's a look at the replay. And the close attempt by Schumacher and Castillo scoring. Have you visited with the radio side yet?
Yes, I have. I was over there, and it's great to see those guys. What a great history.
Now, you probably grew up listening to Mike Shannon, right, and watching him play?
I watched him play. I was here when they played in 64, 65, 66, 67, and not in this building, but at Busch Stadium. The other thing we got to do in the All-Star game, I got to bring Mike Anderson as part of his contract extension. We've agreed to take care of the coach here pretty well this year. So
here's a ground ball, nice play there by Joe Thurston, and a forced play at second. I'll tell you what, Governor, great to see you. Looking forward to the All-Star game, and thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet. We're tied up one way. Up their series against the Mets. Coverage starts at noon. Cardinals live. Cardinals and Mets tomorrow, and we'll be in high definition right here on Fox Sports Midwest. Joel Pinheiro takes a strike from John Maine. We're underway here in the bottom of the third. Pinheiro looking for his first base hit of this 2009 campaign. No balls and 2 strikes here on Pinheiro. Schumacher on deck, and then Colby Rasmus. And Pinheiro will give the catcher, Ramon Castro, a little time to catch his breath after taking that foul tip. No balls, 2 strikes. Here it comes. A little bit high. Pinheiro, as we've seen before, is a very good athlete. Looks at a ball a little bit upstairs, and it's 2-2. Where have you been?
I was running for office.
Talking with Jay Nixon, huh?
Yes, sir.
Nice work.
Jay was
I'm Al Rabowski, candidate. And people start running down the streets, screaming.
I'm going to go for federal office so I can get that pension.
I could just imagine your tax plan.
You would like it.
Pinheiro draws a leadoff walk, and that's how we start the Cardinals half of the third. Nice to visit with the governor as the All-Star game is on its way to St. Louis.
I mean, first time I met him, he was lieutenant governor in Marty Hendon's office. Me and Marty were very close.
Here's Schumacher. Walked and scored the only Cardinals run tonight. And he slices that one down the left field line, and it's just foul. Schumacher almost came up with that ground ball up the middle. And again, it was another 2-out hit for the Mets. This is fouled by a couple of feet. You know, Tony La Russa was talking today about when we can get our bullpen fresh, like last night, we have a chance to win a lot of games. And that means starters going deeper into games.
Yeah, it's, you know, that still wasn't ideal, as the bullpen had 10 outs to acquire, but they did an outstanding job when they had the 2 days off. But it is imperative, you need to get more innings out of your starter.
Schumacher pops it up into shallow left. That's Daniel Murphy under it. Pinheiro back to first, and a look at our Firestone leaderboard. What is it tonight? With Rasmus digging in. On base percentage, the Dodgers at .392. And this is the best teams in all of baseball. Cardinals third at .377. Rasmus up there hacking and fouls it back.
Cardinals are off to a very good offensive start as a team.
You know, overlooked though in that game last night was the bullpen. Kyle McClellan, 2 scoreless innings. Jason Mott, his first major league win. You had Franklin getting the save. In those 4 innings, just 1 hit allowed, no runs, and the bullpen really did the job.
And you know, it's young season. You know, unfortunately, they got off to a slow start with 4 losses and some crucial blown saves, but they'll iron those things out and they'll get things under control.
Great for Mott to get that first win under his belt, and we talked about it in the open. Kyle McClellan, a rough spring, but it has not carried over one bit to the regular season. Kyle has been outstanding. There's a look at Mott, Marty Mason, Perez, McClellan, Jeff Murphy, the bullpen coach, but there's a look at Kyle right there. Great job last night. 2-2 pitch, fouled back.
I think a lot of times people, you know, really almost use it as an excuse. Well, I don't know my role. Your role is to pitch, you know, when called upon. There's Blaine Boyer.
Blaine Boyer, one of those Atlanta pitchers. The Cardinals have had pretty good success recently with those pitchers. Into center field. Hard hit ball again by Rasmus. And now he is 2 for 2. A double and this single. Well, did you know that the Cardinals feature kids pricing for all 81 home games? Kids 15 and under can purchase tickets for as low as $7. Cheaper than a trip to the movies. For details on kids pricing, visit STLCardinals.com. So 2 runners on for Albert Pujols. The thing about that, the Atlanta pitchers, Blaine Boyer being the most recent, but Jason Marquis, Ray King, Adam Wainwright, all involved in that trade before 2004.
Led by Wainwright, you know.
He's been great, and Marquis was good.
Sure.
I mean, he fit
they all
a good role in that time.
You know, they had a role with this ball club, and a change of scenery might do the Atlanta.
Pujols, a base hit into left. They'll wave him in. Throw from left field, and save at the plate is Pinheiro. Redbirds back on top. It's 2-1. You ask Jose Oquendo about coaching at third, and he says 99 out of 100 times I will be overly aggressive, and he was there with the pitcher running.
Absolutely, and you got a left fielder that's struggling out there. You know, he plays second base a little bit, and you're going to challenge right there. Even with a good throw, Pinheiro gets underneath the tag. Ball up in the zone, hanging a breaking ball. Second RBI for Pujols, leads the league with 18. You see the outfielder coming in on it, and he kind of reaching. He's lucky that ball didn't elude him. High throw, but you see underneath the tag.
Daniel Murphy, the left fielder. There's a look at Pujols, the left fielder for the Mets. It was his third fielding misplay in left field last night in the first 13 games. That triple sparked a 2-run inning for the Cardinals. He dropped a fly ball at Florida, misplayed a ball against San Diego, Major League Baseball, most RBIs. See the teammates, and here is Duncan. A ground ball hit to second. They'll go to second. That's all they'll get. Run will score, and it adds to the Cardinals' lead, 3-1.
And update that RBI leadership as the Cardinals take it over with teammates. And last year, Pujols and Ludwig led the league as a combined RBIs.
Well, Pujols now with 18, with 2 tonight, and Chris Duncan picks up his 12th. And again, to update it, Ludwig and Pujols at 33 already. Here's Rick Ankiel. Ankiel, a 3-hit night in game 1 of this series. The 8th inning RBI double. And he smokes this one to right, but that'll hang up and be caught by Ryan Church. 3-1 St. Louis after 3. Midwest is brought to you by Kia Motors. To learn more, visit kia.com. By Aflac, we've got you under our wing. And by the Casino Queen, home of the loosest slots.
Dan, you see our buddy Dan Heron? I think I saw this right. He's now 0-3 with an ERA under 1.9.
Where's the offense? Where is the offense?
Pinero's got 3 runs in this game.
How about, you know, we've talked a little bit about Citi Field. We'll see that a couple of times this year, but the Yankees, the new Yankee Stadium, they can do all the win studies they want and pour as much money as they want into that ballpark, over $1 billion, and yet there are home runs flying out of that ballpark.
They had 20 in the first 4 games.
20.
And 14 of those were to right field.
That's right. Ball is just flying out of there. Here's Delgado. He is 0 for 1. Flew out to center his first time up. The thing about that, you pour that kind of money into that ballpark, you've got everything you could possibly want with modern amenities for the ballpark, and yet there's one problem. You still have to play the game on the field.
Yeah, and just to cheapen home runs, you know, that's not the way to play baseball.
Here's a ground ball. The shift was on, and this is Joe Thurston at the shortstop position, playing third base, and makes the play.
Only infielder on the left side of the infield, and hit right to him.
I wonder if Joe Thurston thinks, You know, these guys are crazy here in St. Louis. I've been with a bunch of different organizations. I've never been at third base and then playing shortstop with these kind of shifts. But Dave Duncan has, what, about 4 or 5 inches of pages worth of notes on individual players, on where to position them, how to play the position, where to pitch them.
I'll bet you didn't question it.
He wants to stick around.
Yes.
And there it is.
Got one of those charts for every hitter, and then different colored pencils designating which pitcher, to get an idea of where a guy hits the ball, the tendency, whether he pulls the ball in the infield, how to play the outfield.
Now, Tom Mee is our director. He knows don't go too far into those notes and start giving away secrets. There's a base hit for Carlos Beltran, and he's 2 for 2. A tremendous talent, over $100 million contract. And part of that was the postseason of '04 when he was with Houston.
He's 4 for 5 in this series.
Cardinals Live coming up after the game. That will be with Pat Paris and Rick Horton. Before the game, it's Cal Eldred and Pat Paris. Before and after every game, it's Cardinals Live. The one constant, the one and only, Pat Paris. There's Ryan Church. And Church gets underneath this one, and he'll fly out to center. And Keel under it with 2 hands and makes the catch. So Church is over 2, and it brings in Castro. Ramon Castro, a season ago, dealing with hamstring injuries, ankle injuries, dealt with a bad quad, didn't play a lot, and this season off to a rough start. His average down to 143. 2 outs and a runner at first. First pitch at the knees and a strike.
Pinero's pitch count isn't very high, but his ratio is not very good. 23 balls, 24 strikes.
Here's the 0-1 pitch to the Mets catcher in the dirt. Seems to be a bigger crowd tonight. Warmer weather. Blues knocked out of the playoffs, unfortunately.
Congratulate them on a great run down the stretch, getting to the playoffs, and look forward to next year. And I would think with the forecast for tomorrow, this place will be rocking for the 12:40 start.
You would hope so. Cardinals leading 3-1. We're in the 4th, 2 balls, 1 strike. It's only 50 pitches, but 25-25. Here's a 2-1. Pulled fair. They say that's a fair ball off the bat of Castro, and Beltran advances to third.
Right over the third base bag, according to the crew chief, Tim McClellan. Old Castro to a single. There are 2 outs, so get a look at this pitch. Set up outside, leaves it on the inner half, just turned on it. Thurston dives for it. It's not where it bounces, it's where it's over the bag, and it appears to be right over the third base bag, so it's a fair ball.
How did the umpire avoid that baseball?
It's a secret, Dan.
No, it's not, Al. You know what? It's called reactions, Al. Come on.
Oh, I didn't know that, so I had to come up with something.
It's not a secret. It's reactions. Here's Castillo, and he looks at a strike. You know, you're just digging up here, Al. I mean,
that was in the secret
every
garden
once in a while, you need to go down there and talk to those guys and say, hey, how did you avoid that ball?
I only talk to them after they get hit, because then they're embarrassed.
You like that?
Sure I do.
Did you like any umpire when you played?
I liked them all.
As Castillo hits it to Thurston. Nice play. Force at second. Takes the hit and RBI away from Luis Castillo. Nice play by Joe Thurston. Molina, Green, and Thurston coming up. Yadier Molina will lead things off, and it's our This Date in Baseball History, brought to you by Schnucks and the old Busch Stadium. 2001 Pujols as the first of his 24 career multi-home run games. We had no idea what we were about to see with Albert Pujols. Of course, Al did, because he had done extensive study that year on the minor league system and spring training.
And I concentrated on Peoria.
Pujols, you know, he has said to people, he said to us,
"Then quit. One year. I'll give you 1 year. If I don't
1
make
year
it
in
to
the minor leagues. If I don't make it, I'm done."
I'm sure glad he didn't quit. And it only took him 1 year.
That's the amazing thing. It took him 1 year to get to the big leagues.
And a Bobby Bonilla hamstring pull.
That helped.
Tony was reluctant. All the coaches wanted to take him as part of the 25-man roster.
So did Mark McGuire.
Well, I mean, he had a lot of pressure between his coaches and the core group of players. But you know, Tony was looking after the best interest of a young player. You know, how often do you make that jump and go to Rookie of the Year and just have a phenomenal season and just carry it right on through?
Tony was saying before the game, his quote was, "You'd be hard-pressed to find a better game," end quote, by Yadier Molina, talking about last night.
Well, it had all the elements. You know, he picks off his 26th man at first base since '05. His nearest competitor is 13. So he's got twice as many, and his reputation is the best thrower in the game. You know, you sit there and you talk about his 3 hits. He tags 2 guys out at the plate. How he guides the pitching staff. Just a real leader. I mean, it was a spectacular all-around game.
Stays away from that pitch. 2-2. Molina, over his last 6 games, is now 10 for 23. Came in hitting .348 tonight. On base percentage close to 500. Slugging percentage over 500.
You know, that pitch is in, and Molina's acting like it hit him.
Or was he just brushed back a little bit and didn't like it?
Well, but I mean, I think he's acting like it hit him on the hand.
Didn't look like it, did it?
No.
Takes his time getting back in the box. He's a career .264 hitter.
Now I wonder if Tony and Oquendo are going to try and make sure. Let's take a look at it as the ball's up and in.
May have gotten the jersey there.
He winced,
the right sleeve.
Winced a little bit.
Now they check on Molina. This is no good news for the Cardinals. So look at this.
Starts to stride into it. It's up and in.
Did it hit his hand?
It looks like it changed direction. Look at him. He's wincing. The umpire didn't buy it, but you know, pretty good Academy Award if it didn't.
Well, the Mets know all about Yadier Molina. Back in 2006 in the playoffs, he had 19 hits. There's a call, 3rd strike, no argument from Yadier. We'll check on him next inning, make sure he's throwing okay. Brings in Khalil Green. Don't miss Bud Light T-shirt night, Friday, May 15th, 7:15. Milwaukee will be here. First 25,000 fans ages 21 and over receive a Bud Light Cardinals T-shirt. For tickets, head to STLCardinals.com. Pitch up and in to Green. John Maine is a guy that can get it, you know, into that low to mid 90s range. He can throw pretty hard.
Had the shoulder surgery last September, and they feel he's healthy. Just trying to get his control. The one thing they've tried to do as a pitching staff is throw more fastballs, and particularly inside.
Here's a 2-0 pitch to the Cardinal shortstop. Popped up. Delgado will give it a look along with the catcher Castro, and it's out of play. Cardinals as a team came in hitting .291.
Scoring a lot of runs.
See, right there, how do you teach your kids the game? It's pretty tough. Okay, you
teach them about the concession stand first, right?
You got the cup, you can put it on your head. You got the other two kids on your lap. Other guy's not paying attention. Good luck. And you're trying to watch the game. And then all of a sudden, because you're on TV, your cell phone goes off. The year in review for the St. Louis Blues. They were 10 games above 500, 6th in the Western Conference. At one point out, they were in the bottom of that Western Conference, and they finished in the playoffs. They were swept by Vancouver, but the Blues year in review, you wouldn't believe how many of the players, the Cardinal players, talk about the Blues and then vice versa. Wanted to find out about each other's teams. You just called Bob Plager.
Oh, yeah, I called Bob. You know, I'm an expert on hockey when I learned from Bobby and Barkley Plager.
How to hit after the whistle. Or was that Conrad?
No, that was my theory on how to play football. And I translated and taught Conrad how to do that. How to hit, runner to split second, relax after the whistle. Of course, Conrad tackled the defensive man in front of him.
Bobby has,
did it.
You know, Bobby's got a new bar restaurant, Bobby's Plager.
Bobby's Grill.
And now they're going to talk to Maine. Oh, good. Dave Schonenberg has found the hungo. You know, we don't talk enough about the hungo throughout the regular season. There's that Fu Manchu, Al.
Oh, yeah. It was dark at one time.
Where is it now?
That particular one is, is in the drain in Venezuela. I shaved it off in Venezuela from the original one, from my playing days.
You make it so easy to work with the Al, because now I got to figure out where your mustache is. It's Venezuela.
Yeah. The bottom some oil rig.
An oil rig?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the sanitary conditions aren't quite the same over there, you know, so it went down the drain, went down, you know, water goes to the weakest point.
Thurston to right, off the base of the wall. That'll get away. Oquendo will wave him in. Here comes Khalil Green, and he'll score. Thurston on his way to third. 4-1. Thurston bails us out.
Oh, yeah. We can stop talking about that nonsense, but he's got 4 doubles, but this gets over the head of Church and then misplays it, allowing it to get by him to turn it into a triple.
It's one of those plays, though, if you're an outfielder, you're not, you know, exactly sure how this is going to come off the wall. It came off the base of the wall, which is a little bit harder than the rest of it, and it took that sharp bounce.
Well, down at the bottom, it's concrete. Right above there, it's padded. And so it didn't hit the padding, which would have dropped it. You can see down below the green padding is that's concrete. It hit off of that and carried him by him.
But again, you have to be ready for anything out
there.
Sure.
And I mean, you got to get ready for that carom.
Here's Pinheiro with 1 out. And the infield drawn in by the Mets here in the 4th. 4-1 St. Louis.
Playing for the carom, then goes right off the bottom of it, hits hard, and scoots on by him.
And the first pitch is a strike. With Tony La Russa, you never know what might be up his sleeve here. Squeeze, hit and run. Pinheiro, broken bat, slowly hit to short. Reyes makes the play, and Thurston will stay put at third. And it's up to Skip Schumacher. Schumacher has walked and scored back in the first run of this game. And he's also flied out to left for the Mets. John Main's spot is due up first in the 5th. And then they'll have the top of the lineup. Schumacher takes a ball in. Wild pitch, pass ball. Cardinals will take anything to get a 5-1 lead, including a home run. Schumacher still looking for that first of the season. Line drive up the middle. It's a 2-out base hit for Skip Schumacher. Thurston scores to make it 5-1. His 5th RBI and first base hit of the night.
Been on base 2 out of 3 times. He scored a run. He led off with a walk, and here he just muscles this one over the infield. Team Maine thinks he makes a pretty good pitch and then doesn't get rewarded with it. Schumacher bloops it in front of Beltran, and the Cardinals do have the 4-run lead.
Here's Rasmus, who is 2 for 2. Colby looking for his first home run in the major leagues. Wearing a shin guard on that front leg.
That may be something that Tal McRae would hope would come a little bit later. Convince him to just be a line drive contact hitter. Sometimes you hit a home run and then all of a sudden you get excited about that and you start swinging for the fences and you lose your line drive stroke.
Well, he's 2 for 2. He came in hitting .235 and his average has jumped up to .278. 2 balls and 1 strike.
81 pitches. Still trying to get through the 4th inning.
Ooh, there was a pitch to hit right there. 2-2.
92 miles an hour, but just enough inside to tie him up a bit.
On deck, it's Pujols, so one of the best spots in this Cardinal lineup occupied tonight by Colby Rasmus. And you will see pitches to hit.
Right, and you know it's a 2-2 count, so you're getting deeper into that count. More chance you're going to see a mistake by the pitcher.
2-2 to Colby. Fouled back and a good cut. Talking with John Mozeliak, they feel that Colby Rasmus eventually will be a guy that does hit home runs. But right now, as you mentioned, Al, just looking for line drives, and if you happen to walk into one and hit a home run, that's all the better. 2-2. Opposite field, pretty well hit. That'll stay in the ballpark. Backing up, Daniel Murphy. Cardinals add to their lead with 2 here in the bottom of the 4th. It's 5-1 St. Louis.
Who is the Cards' all-time save leader against lefties.
Al, it was perfect for you to introduce this because apparently it's not you. I'm sorry, Al. You're second.
Well,
you okay with that?
there goes Vern Rapp.
And for people at home that don't know the story of you and Vern Rapp.
Well, you thought I was getting in trouble in Venezuela. I can get in trouble right here.
I didn't know where you were going with the oil rigs. That was my concern.
I was just waiting for Thurston to do something.
Here's a ground ball slowly hit to Thurston. Right on cue again. John Maine retired for the first out here in the 5th.
Pinheiro, we talked about his pitch count. 55 now, as he's gone 4 1/3 innings, and Maine was, up into the high 80s through 4.
Did you think, though, that Jerry Manuel might think about pinch hitting for John Maine at this point? But again, trying to extend his starting staff to take the burden off his bullpen, I'm assuming.
That's right. That bullpen has been, very good for him. They were #1 in the league before last night. And I think, you still sit there. You got to stretch these guys out. You haven't got to 100 pitches yet, so you try and get at least another inning out of him and don't overwork your bullpen.
Here's Jose Reyes. Fly ball out to shallow left. Duncan over. Sliding catch. Nicely done. Chris Duncan with the catch, and there's 2 away.
Remember, that ball's going to continue to slice away from him. He knows that wall is creeping in on him on the warning track, so he slides. And this way, he can't run into that wall or hurt himself because he's going to do it feet first, and he'll prepare himself.
That's the Hot Shots Exmo Cam. Remember the location, 1 block from the ballpark on Broadway, south from Busch Stadium.
And that is, a very nice play by Chris Duncan. Made a couple here tonight.
His first was back in the 1st on Daniel Murphy. That pitch misses inside, and here's Murphy right here. You wonder about Murphy and how much his fielding miscues would carry over to his offense, but yet this is a guy that sees a ton of pitches, and that's one of the reasons that the Mets really like him. He sees an average of at least 4 pitches per at bat, which at this day and age is a lot. Makes that pitcher work, and he'll ground out here to Schumacher. Over to Albert, and a 1-2-3 inning for Pinheiro. Albert is due up first when we come back. Half of the 5th, and let's take a look at the defense for St. Louis. Joe Thurston backing up on David Wright with a forced play at second. This was a tremendous play by Thurston. Diving at third, takes a hit away and an RBI away from Castillo. Here's Albert Pujols. Pujols out to deep left field to the track, and it will be caught by Daniel Murphy. Pujols with 2 RBIs already tonight. So 1 out on the first pitch here in the bottom of the 5th. Tony Angelis follows this baseball into the glove of Daniel Murphy.
Now that's an art, isn't it? Anytime Albert launches a ball like that, everybody gets excited. Murphy got excited, but he got to the middle of the warning track, looked up, and caught it dead in his tracks.
Here is Duncan at the knees and a strike. Sure, Jerry Manuel is looking at a quick, efficient inning right now from Maine. Keep him in this ball game and take away that burden from the bullpen. 86 already for Maine and 61 for Pinheiro, the pitch count. Duncan with an RBI tonight, trying to extend his hitting streak. And he pops it up. That's a major league pop-up right there. On the infield, Castillo puts it away. Let's take a look at Duncan's night defensively. We talk about his offense, but the defense tonight, that was early in the first. And then last inning, the sliding catch.
Pretty play.
Five to 1 Cardinals here in the 5th. This is Ricky Ankiel. Ankiel is struck out and also flied out to right. 0 for 2. 1 ball, 1 strike. John Mozeliak was telling us that the Cardinals are going to hit. This will be a good offensive team, and the heart of the Cardinals batting order has combined for 25 extra base hits coming into play tonight. Now, much of that is due to Albert Pujols. On the ground to second, good play, spinning Castillo, and the Cardinals go in order. The middle of the lineup coming up for the Mets. Cardinals lead it. It's 5-1. FanFest, July 10th through the 14th at America Center right here in downtown St. Louis. Tickets are available at allstargame.com or by calling 888-FANFEST. All attractions are included with the price of admission. That's Tom Mee right there. Don Lucy, Mike Helling, and the rest of our crew in the truck. any early candidates for the Hungo Award?
Yes. But I'll keep that to myself.
Go ahead and just let it all out, Al. Here's a fly ball into right center. Should stay in the ballpark. Rasmus is there on the track.
How about Molina's game? How about Pinheiro, the way he's pitching here tonight?
Colby Rasmus has admittedly said he's a work in progress, either left or right field.
Yeah, he's natural center fielder, and the ball comes off the bat at different angles. Still trying to get used to that. But you see him tracking this one, go backpedaling. Feels a change of surface underneath his feet. Knew when he left the grass to the warning track, and hauls it in.
Here's Delgado, and Delgado with one out is 0 for 2. He's flied to center, also grounded out to third. First pitch catches the outside corner. Now you get that strike call. You see Delgado doesn't like it, but if you've been around the plate all night, you get that.
That's right. Umpire will eventually say, hey, this guy's throwing strikes, which still not the best ratio. It's improved, but his pitch count is low.
Took some off that pitch. He's out in front. 2 strikes on Carlos Delgado.
Third time through the order, kind of a test for a starter. Can he still have something in his repertoire to fool the hitter? Ted Barrett, our home plate umpire tonight.
0-2, a ground ball. The shift was on again, and it pays off. Thurston there at the shortstop position. He's the third baseman tonight, folks. And again, he puts him away. 3 guys on the right side of the infield, and Joe Thurston left all by his lonesome there on the shortstop side of the bag.
Pitch him away, hits him away, and Thurston's right there at shortstop. The third baseman playing shortstop with that shift, the only infielder on the left side of the infield. Now he's got to learn how to get Beltran now.
Beltran is 2 for 2. Popped up. Thurston, foul territory. Has a play. He's got it. Midway through 6. Pinheiro and the Cardinals rolling. It's 5-1. Molina, he'll lead it off for the Cardinals, and we have our Bud Light What's on Tap. The difference is drinkability. Cal Loge, Levan Hernandez tomorrow, and we are on the air at noon here on Fox Sports Midwest. Looking forward to that. Levan Hernandez, Cal Loge up the middle and a base hit. Molina starts out the Cardinals half of the 6th with a base hit and swinging a hot bat. Well, for the first time, I believe, this regular season, let's check in with our Jim Hayes. Jim.
Dan, I was with you guys for a couple of games, and then I went on the Blues beat for a while. But I've been at some Cardinal games.
Okay, Jim, what do you have for us?
Say what?
What do you have for us, Jim?
Well, I don't know if you can get a shot in the upper tier of the press box, but we got our own Rick Horton and Cal Eldred and Mike Matheny's up there. And Pat Paris and I feel like third wheels because our teammates, Cal and Rick, who were so friendly to us normally, aren't really paying any attention to us because we got Matheny up there.
By the way, that's Rob Raines, I believe, up there as well, who has written the latest book on Tony La Russa.
Right.
Here's a 1-1 pitch.
Ooh. Molina had that look about him, wanted to steal again.
So, Jim, tell us about the Blues beat. Obviously, must have been a somber locker room yesterday.
Cal's trying to make amends. He gave me some. You know what? I don't even want it, Cal. Go back to your player buddy, Mike Matheny. You know what? I believe that that team has nothing to be upset about. They shocked a lot of people by having that amazing run getting into the postseason. But you get the feeling from the players that they just felt like they didn't have the kind of showing they felt like they could have.
2-2, the count on Khalil Green. I assume, Jim, you'll be with our star of the game coming up after the ball game, right?
Got a lot of good choices, Dan. I'm right now discussing it with Pat Paris, crunching some numbers, seeing who we want to get.
Well, here's a look at Joe Thurston. I know you had a chance to visit with Joe during spring training. What did you take away?
There's a guy who just wants an opportunity, and you look at what he's done. Same thing with Brian Barton. Two guys who have gotten opportunities and really made the most of it. You can't complain with anything they're doing, not only offensively, but defensively as well. Barton had a great Thurston had a great play earlier in the game.
Yeah, you had a chance to visit in a very nice interview with Brian Barton on the pregame show. Jim, anything that our fans that didn't see the pregame that you took away from that interview in the pregame that you can relate to them now?
Well, he's flirting with 400, and I asked if that was the goal to hit 400 for the season. He said no. But, we've talked with him in the past about a guy who has a reputation for being a good glove man. He is that. But offensively, in the minor leagues, he's posted some good offensive numbers as well. He's had 15 home runs in the minors, 16 home runs in the minors, so he can do it as well.
Yeah, interesting story too, Jim, because Brian Barton is an Oregon State product, and he always felt, at least a couple of years ago, that he probably should have been an everyday player. Then he had to adjust at the time when the Cardinals picked him up, and Thurston now pops this one up. Foul territory. Castro makes the catch. At that time, the Cardinals were really concerned about the health of Scott Rowland, and they picked him up off of waivers. And I'm not sure, Jim, that a lot of people expected Brian Barton to play the kind of defense that he has, because he was more of an insurance policy for the Cardinals at that time.
When they got him, he was a third baseman. He said that the Arizona organization wanted him to be more of a power hitter, which wasn't really the kind of offensive player he felt he was. Came to the Cardinals, gave him a little insurance at third base. Last year, primarily a shortstop. Played some second base as well, and played defensively very well at both positions, and hit .285.
Did the Cardinals welcome you back, Jim, even though you left for a while to go do the Blues beat?
Well, you mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. A lot of the players were following the Blues playoff run as well, so they knew what I was doing, yeah, and they did welcome me back. And even Al gave me a little hug today. That felt good.
That must have felt good. Thank you, Jim. We'll see you at either later this game or on the post game.
You got it.
All right, that's Jim Hayes. Good to see him back with us.
Oh, yes.
Where he belongs, Al.
That is true.
That's a swing and a miss by Pinheiro. Good stuff from Jim. And it's 1 ball and 2 strikes, 2 outs, and a runner at first, and the Cardinals leading 5-1 here in the 6th. Always fun to visit with Jim Hayes.
Activity in the Mets bullpen as Maine's pitch count is over 100.
Try to get him through this inning right here, and
Stokes.
There's a right-hander, and Fossum. Lefty is getting loose.
The two we saw early in yesterday's ball game.
So Fossum 4 straight to Thurston, I believe. Walk him, and there's a base hit for Pinheiro to extend the inning. So you might get into this bullpen right now. By the way, good to see Mike Matheny here at the ballpark.
Absolutely.
And I talked to Mike over the weekend, and for fans that are wondering about his health, and there's a look at Mike visiting with Rob Raines. He feels great. You know, Mike said all the post-concussion syndrome dealings that he had after the game was done for him is through. And he feels he has so much to offer to young players. And remember, Tony La Russa had him as an instructor in spring training, and he was telling me that he really enjoyed that. And I asked him, I said, do you think it was because of the foul tips that was part of it? And he said, no, not at all. And he's been actually an innovator with Major League Baseball in trying to find out a reason why catchers get what he dealt with, which was a severe case of post-concussion syndrome, and he felt it was the collisions.
The collisions.
Yep.
Okay.
And he's working with young players. He's working with Major League Baseball. He has 5 kids. He's living here in St. Louis, and Mike said, you know, this was the right place for him. And when he came to St. Louis, it was the perfect time for him because they needed a guy that could handle a pitching staff and just worry about defense. And he is held in such high regard as a true professional here in town, as a player and as a person.
Yeah, I mean, he could go to any organization.
He was such a good catcher defensively, blocking the baseball, throwing people out, working with Yadier Molina. You probably wouldn't see him do that.
Nope. Every time you see Molina make a great block, you could trace it back to Matheny, and then you take it what they were taught by Dave Ricketts, Cardinals' longtime catching instructor that worked with so many people and unfortunately passed away this offseason.
And that is ball 4 to Schumacher. So good to see Mike Matheny here at the ballpark. Base is loaded, and Jerry Manuel will go to his bullpen. Cardinal fans, when it comes to tickets, you deserve Major League service. Go online to StubHub, the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the Cardinals, and the only site with Fan Protect guarantee. Fossum, the lefty, coming in. It's our Chevy called to the bullpen. He'll face Colby Rasmus when we come back, and the Cardinals leading 5-1. Come into McDonald's today and get any large soft drink or sweet tea for just $1. And by Chrysler, employee pricing plus It's in its final month at your Chrysler and Jeep dealer. Hurry, offer ends April 30th. Pinch hitter is Ryan Ludwig. First pitch is fouled back, so he will pinch hit now for Colby Rasmus. You match up the righty-lefty here.
And Ludwig coming off the bench, that's a pretty valuable hitter. And Fossum, who made his Mets debut last night, he was just recalled on Monday. Started a couple games, had an ERA under 1 at AAA.
We saw him with a bases loaded walk on 4 pitches. Ludwig, a high pop up into shallow right, backing up the second baseman to make the catch. And that's Castillo. Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the counts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Ryan Ludwig, after his pinch hitting appearance, stays in the ball game, and here is Joel Pinheiro pitching in now to the top of the 7th. Ryan Church will lead it off for the Mets. Pinheiro has been efficient tonight. What has it been that you've seen from Pinheiro that's made him successful tonight?
Well, remember, first about 60 pitches, he was 30-30 in balls and strikes, but you know, he's thrown enough strikes. He's gotten hitters to get them, you know, to hit the ball on the field, utilize his defense. Scattered 5 hits. He's retired 9 in a row, 10 in a row.
Here's another ground ball, and Schumacher over to Pujols for the first out.
Get those ground balls, and you know, you let your defense do the work for you.
You've seen that sinker, and that has been a key tonight, without question, here for Pinheiro. Here's Ramon Castro.
8 in a row.
1 for 2 with a single. That single was back in the 4th, and the first pitch taken a little bit upstairs.
That was the last hit off of Pinheiro. Castro's base hit.
Pittsburgh over Florida 7-4. Arizona beat Colorado 2-0. That's at the knees and a strike. San Francisco beat San Diego 1-0. Milwaukee and Philly just underway, as well as Atlanta and Washington. Here's a 1-1 pitch. Ground ball, backhanded. Oh, what a play. Green fires to first. He got him. Outstanding play from Khalil Green.
And Castro running, that helped out, but there's no denying it was an outstanding backhand play. Spin, this ball was hit well. Slider hooked in there on the outfield grass. Had time to set himself and make the strong throw across. It's pretty. Ozzie would appreciate that. Ozzie at the game today, taking in the announcement of the All-Star festivities.
And now it's Castillo who's in the 8th place in this lineup. Interesting that Jerry Manuel uses him in this spot in the lineup. A guy with good speed. We've seen him primarily in his career either be 1 or 2. And in many ways, Al, it's a secondary leadoff man.
Yeah, that's how Florida Marlins use Juan Pierre and Castillo behind him. And I think because Reyes gets so many extra base hits, sometimes they just don't want to just, have somebody drive him in. There's Sheffield. He's ready to pinch hit.
Fresh off of home run number 500 for Sheffield this past week. Here's a 1-2. Check swing. Green has to be quick to first, and he is. Pinheiro is through 7 with a little help from Khalil Green. 5-1 Cardinals. Infinity game recap.
That was the Bull, Lattimore. They're going to be fighting Friday night.
Defense has been a story tonight for the Cardinals. Colby Rasmus, a couple of base hits. You know about Albert. Joe Thurston and Skip Schumacher. And here's Pujols to lead it off for the Cardinals against Casey Fossum. 5-1 St. Louis.
I think Albert just wanted to get a look at what that breaking ball looked like. Watch out for the next one.
The 29-year-old Albert Pujols. 13th round selection, 402nd overall out of the Dominican Republic. And a base hit. Base hit for Pujols to start the 7th. Most starts as a catcher since 2000. Mike Matheny with 561. Molina, Marrero, Bennett, and DeFelice on that graphic.
Tiati's started opening day for the last 5 years. First time somebody's done that since Daryl Porter.
I want to go back to what we were talking about, though, with Mike Matheny. The fact was you had, I believe at the time, McGuire, but you certainly had Edmonds. Roland then would be in the mix. You had Renteria. You had Vigna for a while. That's a line shot.
How does Albert not get picked off on that?
I don't know.
Or doubled off.
You know, you think about when Matheny arrived in town, he was the perfect guy at that time for Tony La Russa. I asked him about, you know, being mentioned in Tony's book about his family life, and Mike's certainly a family man. And Tony had mentioned, and there's a stolen base for Pujols. In a way, he was almost envious of Mike and, you know, what he has done away from baseball. Tony, of course, has dedicated much of his life to this game.
Tony has a unusual marital situation, but one that they've dealt with for many, many years. That you know, during baseball season, it's all business. He's away from the family.
That's out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And he makes up as much time as possible in the offseason.
We talked about Mike holding hands with his wife, and Mike then told me that he and Tony La Russa had so many conversations away from baseball and in the personal aspect of things, and really got to know Tony and appreciates what he means.
I've always said
to this franchise and to a guy like Mike Matheny, what he meant to his career.
Well, but you look at those two guys right there. They are so tough on catchers. They demand so much from the catchers, and they get it from Molina. But it was the same token when, you know, Mike Matheny was here. It was an extension of Tony's pitching staff and coaching staff. Mike Matheny got him those pitchers.
How loaded, though, when you go back now in retrospect, how loaded were those teams? They were outstanding teams that Tony and at that time Walt Jocketty had assembled here in St. Louis. Outstanding teams.
04, they win 105 games.
Well, even before that, 2001 and 02, they went to postseason play. 03, they were mathematically alive. 04, go to the World Series. 05, advance. 06, win. Let's go pitch by pitch here. The lefty on Rick Ankiel, brought to you by Chevrolet.
Albert just stole that off the pitcher. Double breaking balls. Their fastball there. He doesn't time it. Now they're sweeping breaking ball and finishes him off with one outside. There could be a double switch. Stokes was warming up earlier, and it looks like he will come in, and we'll see what Castillo is kind of wondering where he's going. He's coming off the field as Jerry Manuel will make the pitching change and double switch.
So a righty coming in to face Yadier Molina. Molina with a base hit back in the 6th inning. That's it for Castillo as well. The double switch.
So Cora goes
call to the bullpen, and here he comes. And a runner in scoring position. Stokes is the new pitcher for the Mets, part of the double switch. Alex Cora is in the ball game, and he'll be tested right away. He's at second, and he'll lead it off when we move to the top of the 8th. One pitch, just like that. Mets out of the jam. Wake up! Whoa! Come on now, wake up! Pretty good game going on right now. It's 5-1. The 8th here in St. Louis, and some changes for the Cardinals. Brian Barton takes over third base. Joe Thurston moves from third to second, and Skip Schumacher takes over in left. And it's been an economical night here for number 35, Joel Pinheiro.
Retired 10 in a row, and he's thrown 77 pitches through 7 innings. So very good ratio and gone deeper than any Cardinal starter today.
Alex Cora will lead it off.
Obviously today.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's today. He's been the only one we have seen, but still under 80 pitches for the ball game. And here is Cora, part of that double switch. We'll see Cora, Reyes, and Daniel Murphy for the Mets here in the top of the 8th. 5-1 St. Louis. 1-0 pitch. A little bit low, 2 balls, no strikes. We've seen him fall behind, but yet then he'll get a ground ball, and next guy up, ground ball, and all of a sudden it's a quick inning.
And Cora wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of work the count a little bit, get that pitch count up there.
Talked about the bullpens being a story in this series. And at the start of this series, the Mets a 1.98 ERA in their bullpen. The Cardinals were able to get to that bullpen last night. St. Louis a 4.98 bullpen ERA at the start of this series, and they were the difference in game 1. Little chopper slowly hit, Pinheiro with it to Albert for the first out.
Very good fielding pitcher is Pinheiro, and he helped himself there.
Let's say hello to the Hallsville High School seniors from Hallsville, Missouri, at the game on their senior trip. Livan Hernandez will get the start tomorrow for the Mets, as Mott, fresh off his first win in the major leagues, getting loose in the bullpen for St. Louis. And a strike to Reyes on the outside corner. Not a lot has been left over the middle of the plate. And again, Mott off his first major league win yesterday.
The way Pinheiro's throwing, he's not going to let Mott come in this game.
Here's a ground ball hit to second. Thurston puts him away, 2 outs.
Wouldn't be the worst thing. Try and get him the next 4 outs to keep that pitch count under 100.
And it brings in Murphy with 2 outs and nobody on here in the 8th. Five to 1 Cardinals. Cardinals with a run in the first, 2 in the third, and 2 in the fourth. The Mets picked up their run in the third. Base hit up the middle, and that's been it against Pinheiro. Just 5 base hits tonight against Joel. And that's a strike. Not to make excuses, but in his last start, it just seemed like the strike zone was pretty tight in Arizona. Wasn't getting a lot of calls. That's hit to short. Easy play. Bottom of the 8th, rolling in. Cardinals lead it 5-1.
You up. The difference is drinkability. By Bank of America. Cardinals banking only at Bank of America. And by your St. Louis Hyundai dealers. Always a home run with America's best warranty and now Hyundai Insurance. Well, Joel Pinheiro has retired the last 13 in a row, and his teammates have provided him 5 runs of support. There is activity in the Cardinal bullpen, so we'll have to wait and see. Leo Green 0 for 1 tonight. He has 2 walks. That gives him 5 walks in the first 2 games of this series. Ryan Stokes, who got the final out last inning, his second inning of work. A slider off the plate. Stokes hasn't allowed a run this year yet. And Cardinals made the most out of their 8 hits, Dan.
No doubt.
A lot of walks, just like last night from the starter.
So it's a 5-1 game here in the 8th. And the story of this night, no doubt, has been Pinheiro. Pitched very well. Green will bounce to second for the first out on a 2-2 pitch, and there's 1 away.
There's Big Dog, and I appreciate Big Dog. Called me last night and reluctantly asked permission to miss the assignment of baseball so he could work the Blues contest. And
is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, he is unbelievable in his thoughtfulness. But, you know, I mean, everybody in the crew, except for Tim Garcia, called to get permission to miss baseball and do hockey. I mean, Tim, who works up here, assists us all the time. We only have nice things to say about Mr. Garcia.
He's so efficient.
Efficient. He didn't call us, though. And everyone else did. Big Dog, glad to have you back.
Tim is so efficient that he handed us Game 5 notes for the Blues.
And he said, what's wrong with that?
He didn't know. It's okay. 1-1 is swung on and missed by Thurston. 1-2.
Is that Blaine Boyer warming up in the Cardinal pen?
1 ball and 2 strikes.
Yes, it is. The newest Cardinal.
In the dirt, 2-2.
Saw a little different motion down there, so we figured it had to be Boyer, who joined the club yesterday through a bullpen session. And they think he's going to be helpful down there. Power arm, just need a change of scenery.
He would seem to be the right kind of fit for Dave Duncan. Remember a guy named Todd Wellemeyer. Power arm, mid-90s. And needed maybe a little guidance, needed a job and a change of scenery, and that helped him.
And Boyer throws in the low 90s. He has a very good curveball. Just got off to a horrendous start where Wellemeyer was released 2 or 3 times and went from the banished from the Kansas City bullpen into the Cardinals rotation a couple years ago, and that transformation has been very smooth.
3-2 the count. 5-1 Cardinals. Thurston at the plate. We're in the 8th.
Anyways, you'd like to see Pinheiro get a shot at the 9th inning, but it also is a good time to see Boyer get some work.
Maybe at this time, though, Al, and that's it on the button at second base. This early in the season, you really do pay attention to those pitch counts.
Well, he's going to hit for himself, but just because he's 1 for 2 in the night and also a walk.
6 is a serious number when the Cardinals score 6 runs. Get a 20-ounce coffee, fountain, or frozen drink for only $0.25 the next day at On the Run at Mobile. Crowd of 35,622 here tonight. And a line out to center. We head to the 9th, and it's 5-1 Cardinals.
Lead 5-1 as we head to the ninth. Coming up after the game on the post-game edition of U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live, we'll have Cardinal player reaction, including reaction from Joel Pinheiro on tonight's effort. Which Cardinals, aside from Albert Pujols, will make the All-Star team, and we'll have Tony La Russa's post-game news conference as well. It's all coming up after the game with Rick Horton and Pat Paris. For now, we send it back to Dan and Al, guys.
Okay, Jim, looking forward to that as Joel Pinheiro tries to finish off this game. It's now 5-1 St. Louis. And his pitch count has been very good and one of the best starts of the season, undoubtedly.
He's retired the last 13 Mets batters.
What have you seen, Al? What's it been with Pinheiro here tonight?
Well, like I said, it was a little weird because the first 60 pitches, about 30 of them were balls, 30 were strikes, but he was getting ground ball outs. You know, when he fell behind the count, he battled back and retired the hitter. He did walk 2, and those both came in the third inning when they scored their lone run. But he's been very competitive. He's battled. And that sinker has become a more dominant pitch for him.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. A little bit low. Special happy birthday to Don Barker, huge Cardinals fan, watching tonight on Fox Sports Midwest. The 2-1 pitch to David Wright. Here it comes. Up and in. 3-1. Last thing you want to do is walk anybody in this situation.
Yeah, they've got Dennis Reyes and Franklin up in case this inning gets out of control. You know, it is early. Give him a chance to complete it, but one base runner and he might be out of there.
And Wright lines it fair down the third base line into the corner. David Wright on base with a double. Schumacher, who has moved from second to third, gets it back into the infield. Well, he didn't walk him. He made him earn his way on, and he picks up a leadoff double.
And ball just kind of running in. We talked about how he's really opened up and trying to pull the ball, and he keeps it fair. And that's it for Pinheiro.
So leadoff double. Our Budweiser, great player of the game. Budweiser, the great American lager. And that will be Joel Pinheiro. Listen to the crowd for Joel. Pinheiro as he pitches into the ninth inning. And now he'll turn it over to Dennis Reyes, the 32-year-old for the Cardinals. Saw him pitch last night. Pitched a third of an inning and allowed a walk. Numbers on Denny's: 7 games, a record of 0-1, and an ERA of 3.86. He gets Carlos Delgado here. Delgado is 0 for 3, couple of ground outs to third with the shift on, but with a runner at second, Al, they change up the defense because they're trying to keep that runner close at second.
And also they have the left-handed pitcher on the mound, but primarily, as you said, the runner at second.
Rolls over on this one to Thurston. Let's take a look at our Hardy's prime cut of the game concerning number 5. First of many talking about the Hardy's prime cut and Albert Pujols. Seems like every night we turn to Cardinals first baseman for our Hardy's prime cut.
It's hard not to go a game without you seeing some massive swing and level contact. The switch hitter Beltran turned around. He's 2 for 5 from the right side of the plate this year with 1 home run.
So Beltran, a couple of base hits, and he hits a rope down the left field line. This is 3rd hit of the night. That will go to the wall, and he's in with a double. That cuts the lead to 5-2. That run charged to Pinheiro.
Lena set up away, and that ball is on the inner part of the plate. Just drops the bat head and hits a rocket into left field.
Did he ever? Just jumped off his bat. Now you bring up Ryan Church. Runner at second, 1 out. Cardinals do have a right-hander getting loose in the pen.
It's Ryan Franklin. Picked up his 3rd save last night.
Closes the book, by the way, on Pinheiro. This is popped up. Shallow left. Schumacher under it, makes the catch. Out number 2. 1 out away from winning this series and a chance at a sweep tomorrow. That's going to be it, as Tony La Russa will go to the bullpen. And Ryan Franklin will come in and try to close this game out for St. Louis. Five to 2 Cardinals. 2 outs here in the ninth. As the Cardinals lead it by the score of 5-2, the 36-year-old has made, prior to tonight, 5 appearances, and in 3 of those 5 outlets resulted in saves. He is 3 for 3 in save opportunities.
And this is another save opportunity. As you run on base, the hitter and the on-deck hitter would tie it up. So 1 out to get, and he could pick up his 4th save, and he's going to have to go through Sheffield, who you mentioned hit his 500th home run, the 25th player to have 500 home runs, and he's the very first that did it as a pinch hitter, and only his 2nd pinch hit home run of his career.
There are a few closers that have not allowed an earned run yet, and I guess you can classify Franklin as the closer right now for the Cardinals.
Absolutely.
It's not Perez, it's not Mott. Swing and a miss by Sheffield. 3 or more saves are on this list, and that includes Ryan Franklin. Closers with no earned runs allowed with 3 or more saves.
You don't see Brad Lidge. He's blown a save already this year after not blowing any all year long a year ago for the world champions.
And the fans in Philly gave him a
standing ovation.
How about that?
That's a rarity. He gave him, what, about 3 runs or something?
Yeah. He's not pitching as well as he did a year ago. Sheffield pops it up. This should do it. A play for Molina. He's got it. Cardinals win it 5-2. Look for the sweep tomorrow. U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live is next. Complete post-game wrap-up coming up 5-2.